Morning.
Good morning. That sounded very convincing. Good morning.
Yeah. Well, it's like a ding dong dilly wog day. You know, this is called napalm. Napalm.
Napalm.
Just like the stuff that they used in Vietnam that created Agent Orange. And so I said, well, if I die from this, you all know it was because of napalm.
There you go.
But I don't know what it is. It's something with like temperature change or pressure change or whatever. But my hip screams all night long.
I didn't really sleep last night because mine was hurting so bad.
Napalm is what I am using for pain management today. I think it's really weird because people often ask about cannabis.
Mm-hmm.
And they're like, well, so what do you know when to use, at what time? And I'm like, there's different kinds there's 1,000,001 different strains.
Oh, yeah.
There's a lot of strains out there. And generally, if it's, you need focus and direction with some body management, you would go with the sativa. And I'm like, And then if you're looking for something that's more of a mind thing, then you go with an indica, but half the time I fall asleep with an indica.
Yeah.
Well, it depends on how much you've had.
Yeah.
But I'm a really big advocate
Me too.
of cannabis. As a nurse. And it was really weird. People ask, why did you leave nursing? And I have 100 reasons why. And one of them was patients.
Mm-hmm.
And they would come in, and you got to remember, when you're the nurse and you're dispensing or administering that medication, you're accountable and responsible for your patient during that time. And patients would say, I would like my Xanax with a Norco or Lortab, and my Soma, all at the same time. Yeah, your eyes get big, my eyes get big. And
I've never been a nurse, but I know enough to know that that's not a good
And all I
cocktail.
could think of was, somebody wants to get effed up. They're not looking at pain control or pain management. They want to get, messed up. And it came to that point that I felt like I was a drug dealer. Every day, all day.
Well,
And I wasn't even making as much money as a drug dealer, so that really
that's
pissed
not
me off.
even nice. That's not fair. Is that Heather? I can't read it from
Yeah,
here.
that's Heather.
Hey, Heather.
Good morning, Heather.
So I took tramadol for fibromyalgia pain
Mm-hmm.
for several years. I didn't even take it the way it was prescribed. Maybe once a day type thing. And then discovered that I had become dependent on it. I've told people addicted. I don't think that's a good word to explain what I was going through. Dependent is a better word for it. And so I started using cannabis about 2 years ago with great success.
Mm-hmm.
Got off all of my prescription medicines and was able to just deal with the cannabis. So I've learned, and I'm the person that said, never touch that. Not even as a teenager. Never.
Not me.
Never. And so, there's the running joke of my family says that I'm the family pothead now and all kinds of crazy stuff. And I'm like, no, I'm just functioning now. Thanks.
I make a divine pasta marinara sauce with cannabis,
But
Actually, I'd like to learn how to cook with cannabis.
that'd be amazing.
So, and I'm not talking about just making butters, okay? I'm talking about, there was a show on Netflix, which I don't have Netflix anymore, for many reasons. And it was like a cooking show competition, but they always, not always, but most of the time the people that were judging the food were way too much of stoners for me.
Okay.
You know, and it's kind of like, how come I can't be over there going, you know, tasting that and giving you some witty insight. And it's like, dude, party on, I love the sauce, you know, and I'm kind of like, whew, I just want to know how to cook with freaking cannabis. That's all, you know. You know, and I got stoners, you know.
So, can we give a shout out?
Yeah.
Because I found a dispensary that I absolutely love. Uncle John's Dispensary on Council and I-40.
Uncle John's.
Uncle John's. That's the name of it.
Dispensary.
Yeah.
I-40 and Council. Okay, I'm trying to figure out where it is in I-40 and Council.
It's actually more like Reno and Council.
Okay, so it's
yeah.
It's on the north side of that mall.
Yes.
Because I
Yes,
believe
on the
in
west side of the road.
Yeah.
So,
Okay.
yeah.
Very cool.
It's a very cool place, and what I was told when I went in there is that they grow their own, so everything they sell they grow, and all of their edibles they make themselves.
I was going to say, I know that Stability, which is one of my favorites here in the city, Stability grows all their own.
Oh, cool.
And so I'm really into dispensaries. Because I think that when you invest from the seed, that sounds fun. When you invest from the seed on, and that, so I like they make their own things.
It's better,
I'll have to
better
try that
quality.
out.
So I went in there to try something new. I think I showed it to you. It was the
the little
wrapped in, instead of paper, it was wrapped in rose petals.
Yeah, can you believe
And
that?
it was amazing. Very, very smooth, very nice.
And see, and I'm like, all I'm thinking of is burnt rose petals. They kind of taste harsh. You know,
It really wasn't. But the bud tender in there was amazing. She was so cool, and showed me around and showed me everything in the store. So it was kind of fun. But check out Uncle John's.
Uncle John's Dispensary, I-40 and Council. She says it's probably closer to Reno than.
Yeah, it's on the north side of Reno, west side of Council, and it's a old. It looks like an old building, almost rustic looking building. So
Okay, very
pretty
cool.
cool. Pretty cool. Very cool dispensary. So very cool people that work in the dispensary.
Speaking of Netflix, I got to get political for about 2 seconds here,
Yes.
which I'm sure I'll be political more than that today. Cuties. Netflix got indicted on Cuties. That's why you don't put 12 and 13-year-old girls on film dancing provocatively and not expect a consequence. And actually, to be honest, and this is the granny speaking, I would be spanking some parents.
Amen.
If that was my grandbaby on the stage or in that movie, I would be kicking your ass. And yes, I use that even on the breakfast show camera, which she's like, we're not supposed to cuss.
It's okay.
You know, I would be whooping some butt.
Amen.
And I like to remind my kids of this every once in a while. That I brought you into this world, and
I can take you out.
And not that I'm going to take you out, but I will always be your mother, whether you like it or not. And Mama says, just like Bobby Boucher, Mama says. Mama
and if
says,
Mama ain't happy, ain't
nobody
nobody happy.
You know, what my grandkids do when they're 18 and on, that's their own business in essence, believe me. They'll tell you they'll never hear the end of it from me. But my son actually has Netflix. And so there was something I wanted to watch. It was The Good Witch.
Good Witch.
I love Hallmark. Good Witch. I love that show.
Love Good Witch.
And so I'm like, dude, what's your login? Because he has a big old family account, and I have like a little spot on the family account. And so he's like, text me the stuff, because I think he had to like switch the password or whatever. And I'm trying to get in, and he goes, "You trying to watch Cuties?" Oh! He's like, "Just kidding, just kidding," you know.
Yeah, you better be just kidding.
Better be just kidding.
Real fast.
I'm like, there is no way in heck I'm gonna watch that
No,
stuff.
man.
You know, they go, it's this story about the plight of this girl that's a black Muslim, you know, blah, 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 blah. And I'm like, first of all, if she was a black Muslim, her mama and daddy would not let her be in that ding-dang movie. And they ding-dang wouldn't be allowing that shit going on. So,
That's right.
for what's that's worth.
Right. That's right.
So Netflix, you deserve that. That was poor taste. That was poor judgment. I don't know who you're selling your soul out to, you know, metaphorically or even regular speaking. But that was very uncool, and there's a lot of uncool stuff on TV and Netflix and 1, 2, 3, Go. What the hell is that, right? It's this little thing that my nieces and nephews were watching. First, it starts out with my nieces, and they're watching this show, and it's called 1, 2, 3, Go. Mm-hmm. And on this show, 1, 2, 3, Go, well, one of the episodes, they're showing you how to put makeup on, and I'm like, oh, okay. You know, like they're 5 and 2, you know, like they're really, you know, whatever. And then the next episode has a girl and a guy in it, and they're like making little craft things. So they take a hoodie, and there's this thing where you can take a hoodie and put a cushion on it, and then it becomes a sleeping hoodie. You know how cute, right? Except for the dude makes the comment of, oh, now I found my future husband. And I'm like, really? Okay.
To like little kids.
To
right?
little kids, you know,
Yeah.
or whatever. And then I'm kind of sitting back and I'm like, what age group is this really for? So like more episodes are coming on, and they're teaching you in this show, 1, 2, 3, Go. They're teaching you how to sneak food into a classroom so you can eat while your teacher is talking or teaching. You know, it was like all these little, pretty much like throw all your stuff into the cabinet and close the door instead of cleaning your room. And then, of course, the mother comes over, and they got to make, you know, every adult look like a dumb butt in it. And I'm just sitting here and I'm like, this is what y'all let your kids watch. And then you want to know why you got Antifa out in the street.
Got trouble.
You want to know why your kid is on 5 antipsychotics. Mm-hmm. You know, and I'm not trying to be hateful, and I'm not trying to judge anybody's parenting styles or whatever in here. But when you bombard your kids with negative concepts of being deceitful, being sneaky,
Yeah.
whatever, you know, whatever, and lacking integrity, that's what you're going to get.
Yep.
That is what you're going to get. So don't, you know, so I just sat back and I'm like, I walked outside and I said something to my husband and his brothers, and I was like, your nieces are in there watching, you know, and this is what they're watching. And they, you know, it's kind of like.
So you want some good material for kids, TV-wise.
Yeah.
So there is a company called Featured Films for Families.
FFF.
Featured Films for Families.
FFFF.
They have, I don't know who's watching on me, but hi. I just popped up. They have movies that teach values. And they're very well-made movies. I mean, if you're old enough to remember the after-school specials.
ABC after-school specials! Oh my gosh!
I remember running home from school to get home in time to watch it.
I love those.
So if you remember those, featured films for families are kind of along that line, but I would say probably better quality cinematography, for sure. But they have movies for all ages. So look them up, featured films for families, and check them out. I think you'll really like them. Now, if you have Roku, and I'm going to get a little Mormon-y here, LDSy, but that's okay. Just hear me out. If you have Roku, look up the app Living Scriptures.
Okay.
Okay? And it's not very expensive. The subscription is like, I don't know, $10 a month, if that. Okay? Now, of course, that's 33
cents a day, by the way. Okay.
This is a this company is Mormon. It's the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints. So there is doctrinal videos and stuff on there, but there's also history on there. If you like history, you can watch movies about the history of the church. But Featured Films for Families has started putting their movies on that app. So where years ago when we were making money, we had a subscription to Feature Films for Families, and we would get DVDs in the mail every month.
I think that's important. I think it's really important for you to know what your kids are watching on TV at any given time.
That's right.
You should always know
That's right.
what your kids are, especially when they're, elementary school age, junior high age. I gave my kids a little bit more leeway in their high school years. But in the elementary and middle school, no ma'am, my thumb was on top of it for a particular reason.
Right.
And that was to ensure that, that they weren't watching something that was teaching them to be, teaching them a lack of integrity. And I think that is really important. Kids learn a lot from what they're watching, and it's repeated and repeated and repeated and repeated. And when you're being taught that it's okay to lie to your parents or lie to authority or to be disrespectful, by bringing, if it says no food, it says no food. Don't bring food in.
That's the rule. That's the rule.
I'm going to say, when I taught, I did not allow food. I didn't care about a drink. I really didn't. But I wasn't crazy about people setting up their buffet while I'm trying to teach class.
Crunching on chips and open up. Yeah, it's annoying.
And I am a loud chip cruncher. I like to listen to that. And I'm like over here. So you hear crunch, 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 and everybody's like, really? And I'm like, but I love the way it sounds. It sounds cool. It echoes in my head, or whatever.
I tell my husband, he's watching, I can say this. I tell my husband he sounds like a horse when he eats because he likes to hear his food crunch.
I know, I can't help it. So don't go out to eat with me, or we're going to eat just soft stuff. You can eat ice cream. You can't hear me eat ice cream. But everything else, yeah.
So I think, going back to TV, videos, and whatever, there's ratings on those for a reason. My kids used to fuss at me. It was like, because I'm like, we know you're not watching PG-13. It's PG-13 for a reason. You're not. You're 11. You're not watching PG-13. But then on the other hand, we would preview movies that we thought, if we saw one that we thought might be a good one, we would preview and then decide whether or not they'd watch it. So I've even let my kids watch rated R movies, but only after we watched it first.
Yeah.
So we've previewed it, and I've talked to them about it before they watch it, and it has to be a meaningful. There is a reason why we're watching this movie, even though it's rated R.
Yeah.
We're not doing it for entertainment reasons.
What was Passion of the Christ?
Wasn't it rated R?
I think Passion of the Christ, I don't think it was PG. I think it was rated R. And actually, I'll tell a story when I was at the psychiatric facility because not me as a patient, I was a nurse, and I had a patient on the unit that he was the eldest child of 7, and he was 7 years old.
Oh, wow.
And he had tried to hang himself. And so, one day we're kind of talking, and I'm like, so, tell me a little bit about how you got in here. And this kid tells me that they had watched the movie The Passion of Christ. And I'm like, I bawled through the entire, it was horrific to me.
Yeah.
And I'm like,
I never did watch it because I couldn't.
I'm trying to imagine this 7-year-old kid watching it.
Yeah.
It was horrific. I was like devastated watching this movie. And this kid tells me, and he says, well, I felt like Judas. And I'm like, what the hell? And he says, well, I felt like Judas, and so I had to go and try to, I had to kill myself. And I just sat there for a moment, and I had to really think about this, how heavy the energy must have been for this kid in his life, that at 7 years old, he felt like he betrayed. And I was like, well, who did you betray? My parents. Okay. You know, because the parents were having issues in their own personal life, and it flooded over into their kids.
Right.
And I'm like, that's why you don't let your kids watch adult-themed movies and television shows.
Because they don't have the mature mind
To process that.
Right.
You know, and they
Exactly.
carry that stuff, and all I could think of is like, this 7-year-old kid should have been knowing how to play kick the can, drink out of a water hose, how to climb a tree, and do 100 other things other than even focus on carrying an adult's burden with that. And I was like, that's my focus. When I look at programming for kids and programming for families, and you know, PG-13, R, G, whatever, is like, what kind of burdens are you placing on your children when you pop them in front of the TV and they get bombarded with stuff? You know, 5-year-olds don't need to watch Law and Order. No. You want to, you know, put Andy Griffith on, put Brady Bunch on. That's the kind of dilemmas they need to work with.
Leave it to Beaver.
Leave it to Beaver. How do you be a good kid, but also experience a little bit of risque? You know, that's Wally and Beav, right?
Yeah.
You know, so I'm like, you know, as parents, we're held accountable for raising our kids. And when your 7-year-old kid knows more about sex than you do, we got a problem.
That's right. Definitely.
You know, or knows, yeah, because it was like, there was one child that wanted to watch shows that I don't even watch. And I watched some pretty risque stuff back in the day, and I was kind of like, so this is why they have so much angst at 13. You know, whereas, you know, we were more worried about the next issue of Tiger Beat. Shit, he was going to be on the cover of Tiger Beat, oh my god, you know.
Do you remember the days of the pull-out posters?
Oh, heck yeah. Oh my god. I had a poster on my wall.
I had a poster of Sean Cassidy on my wall.
Oh, Sean Cassidy.
I practiced my kissing every night.
Oh, we had back in mine, it was like Leif Garrett,
Oh, yeah.
Bobby Sherman, oh my god, the Bay City Rollers. Actually, I was laughing one day. I was listening to Sloan Bella, and Sloan Bella was talking about the Bay City Rollers, and I'm like, girl, don't I know, Saturday night. You know, Janae, you know, I was like, hell, I knew all of those songs. You know, I was like, that was our beat. That was our thing back in the day. We were more worried about, if I ever get to meet Sean Cassidy, I'm going to give him a right big kiss right here, you know. Oh my God, the Partridge Family, I love their album, you know. That was our stuff. And I'm like, now kids nowadays are like having discussions about bizarre things at like 13, and I'm like, go outside and play.
I think I was still playing with Barbie dolls at 12 and 13.
I was.
Yeah.
I still had a Barbie doll at almost 15.
I had a Barbie doll collection. You know,
No, I liked music. I was really into music back in those days, so I knew every band. And then everybody in my family loved music.
Okay, so do you want to hear a really weird fact about me?
She can play the ukulele.
No, I cannot. I cannot play any instrument. I long to play instruments, but I don't get it. Anyway, my favorite thing to do when I was a teenager, mind you, this is strange.
Ding 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 ding.
I had an old radio that my grandparents gave me. And you had to dial the
I had one of those.
and it had a little wire coming off the back of it that was the antenna. You
yes.
know, to tape it to my wall to make it work, right? Radio drama and classical music as a teenager.
Radio drama.
Yeah, radio shows.
Oh, really?
Like they were like TV shows, but on the radio.
Yeah, I know what they are.
Yeah.
But
So when I was a teenager,
they had those back then?
there was a radio station
I thought they stopped that.
No, back in the 80s, there was a radio station that I found that still did them.
Okay.
And so I listened.
Oh, just wait.
As a teenager, I was a teenager listening to classical music and radio drama.
Transistor radio, the kind that's like this, and it's just AM, little switch style. Use the 9-volt battery that you would lick to see if it was still good or not. Y'all know what I'm talking about. Sunday nights, I would listen to Sunday night evangelicals when I was like 6 and 7 years old. I'd have the praise Jesus, you know, and I'd be listening like this just on Sunday nights.
That's great.
Isn't that crazy?
That's great.
Yeah. I liked classical music, but I wasn't like into classical music. And my dad had this phenomenal recording equipment down in our game room, family room, that was like the size of our house. And so my dad was like making mixtapes for everybody. And you'd go, yeah, I want some Bachman Turner Overdrive, a little Leonard Skinner. Don't forget Allman Brothers. Can I have the Seekers? I love, you know. What about that song, Georgie Girl? You know. And so my dad would make us mixtapes. And he would start first with the reel-to-reel. And then he would create it on a reel-to-reel. And then he would create it on your cassette tape. Yeah, that's what my dad did. And so
your dad was the cool dad.
My dad was the cool dad. They allowed my brother to have a rock band, and that played down in that same recording, that my dad's area. So my brothers had a rock band. My dad brewed beer and made wine in this one little room over there. It was when we lived in Gaithersburg, which was by Washington, D.C. And so that was when we accused my dad of being a part of Watergate. Seriously, my dad worked
Poor dad.
Okay, my dad was a sound engineer. Okay, you know, engineering, sound, and recording was his expertise. That was his niche, right? And so we're living in Washington, D.C. area, actually a suburb area. And my dad comes home one day, and he's got a box of all of these recording devices. You know, like things you put on phones and blah, 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 blah. And so, you know, like we're playing with them, you know, so I'm like calling my grandma on the phone, Grandma, I'm recording your phone call, you know, things like that. And we end up going to this place called Graves Mountain Lodge for vacation. And at Graves Mountain Lodge, there's no TV, there's one telephone, and it's at the check-in desk. No radios, nothing. So you got to bring all your own stuff if you're dependent on them. People would die out there. Oh my God, no cell phone tower, bitch. Excuse my French. But anyway, so the day that Nixon resigns, we're on vacation over there, and my dad's like real sly, brings out the transistor radio, you know, the kind with the 9-volt battery that you got to lick to see if it works, right? And so my dad is like, sets the transistor radio out there and turns it on at some appropriate time, and we listen to the resignation of Richard Nixon. And so, you know, Watergate and everything's come out, and we're all just like looking at my dad. You know, and I'm like 7 years old or whatever, you know, I'm not a little kid. And I'm even looking at my dad like, did you have anything to do? And he said, he was like, I had nothing to do with Watergate. We're like, he just brought home not too long ago a box of recording devices. I think he did. But, you know, to my dad's dying day, he said, I had nothing to do with Watergate.
Wow.
That was probably, the Richard Nixon administration was my first step into politics.
Was it?
Yep. My mother told me, you need to support George McGovern. And so I'm like, okay, you know, I'm like second grade, second grade, you know, whatever that means. And I'm like, I like George McGovern because my mom said so. And they would do that, Nixon, he's our man, throw McGovern in the trash can. I used to get beat up over that.
Oh my God.
Yeah. So,
she was fighting politics in elementary school.
Shush. The things my mom made me do.
I love it.
You know, and then look at politics nowadays, man. People are hating each other over it. And you know, and I've always kind of like just, I believe in scrolling on. And I was like,
Scroll on.
If your BFF says something you don't like, scroll on. You know? But when President Trump got COVID and went into the hospital, and all of the from people that were wishing him death, shame on you. I unfollowed you and I unfriended you. I did.
That's not nice.
I was like, at that very given point, if you're gonna have the guts to post that up on Facebook or Twitter or Parler or whatever whatever your social media platform is, we're not on the same wavelength, and I'm cool with that.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, I did. I deleted quite a few, or unfriended, and I'm gonna, and I'll say we weren't really friends in real world, and I don't. Just because we're friends on Facebook doesn't really mean that we're friends.
Right.
And I just decided I have never, ever, ever in my life ever wished death upon anybody, because I believe in karmic debt. And on top of that, even like when RBG, the many times that she was going in the hospital or whatever, me and my friends or my family never sat around and said, I hope that old battle act, no, I'm not that kind of person. And I remember back in May when I started, coming out saying I'm against some of these things, and people thought it was okay to get over on Twitter, and you know who I'm talking about, and so if you're even though you've deleted and blocked me as a friend, I'm sure somebody will pass this on to you. For those of you that preach about being tolerant and being all about love and peace and harmony, and then you want to talk shish to somebody, and you got to do it up on Facebook and telling them what a horrible piece of crap person they are, that's for your tolerance on there. I sat back and I was like, this really isn't about politics. Because people aren't even talking about politics. They're just saying, I hate this person. Mm-hmm. He's a misogynist, he's a this, or she's a that. Nobody's even saying why they disagree with that. They're just saying, I hate, I hate, I hate. Yeah. So, so much for being tolerant and open-minded and etc. Listen.
Accepting and, yeah.
Nobody's
perfect. That's my thing.
Well,
nobody's perfect. Everybody makes mistakes. And we can take, and I don't care who your candidate is, it doesn't matter. Mm-hmm. You can take a candidate, or anybody for that matter, and you can go through their life and nitpick every bad choice they've ever made.
Some of those bad choices allowed them to be the good people that they are today.
Because they were lessons. They were life lessons. But what is it that we read in the scriptures? Let he who has no sin cast the first stone.
And I'm too lazy to pick up that rock, so.
So I mean, if you're perfect and you want to start yelling and putting people down and making bad comments, then go for it.
I'm like,
right.
I don't need.
Otherwise, leave it alone because you have your own. I promise.
I don't need that. I was gonna say, I don't need that negative vibe. That negative vibe gets on me, and then I start vibing in a negative way, and then that flows over into everything else that goes on around you. And I'm like, I don't have time for that. I have time to look forward. I have time to move forward. Let's be progressive. Let's think of that. What's the end result that everybody wants? Everybody wants peace. Mm-hmm. Everybody wants abundance. Everybody wants harmony. Mm-hmm. They want to feel joy. They want to go home at the end of the day and be with their family or their loved ones or their tribe or whatever and enjoy life.
That's right. It doesn't matter who they are and what they believe. That's what, in the end, that's what everybody wants.
Across the board, you find me anybody that says, I want to wake up every day in turmoil.
Nobody says that.
Nobody says. Well, I'm sure there's 1% that does.
All right.
I'm feeling crappy, so everybody else around me has to feel crappy. And I'm like, expect good things to happen. Oh, your clock died.
Yeah.
You can't I was like, it's going to be perpetually 12:55. You know, you can't expect good things to happen if you're not on a good thing vibe.
Right. Right.
On that, I love my phrase. We can agree to disagree.
Mm-hmm.
You know,
Well, there's nothing wrong with that.
nothing wrong with that at all.
Nothing wrong with that at all.
I was like, you still have to sit there and take into consideration that when you believe in something, you should be well versed in what you're believing in. Be well versed in what you're believing in. You cannot go through life and say, I like this, and they go, why? And they go, well, because so-and-so told me to.
Mm-hmm.
Or, I don't know, I just do. Well, what is it about them that you like? Or what about that agenda that you like? Or what is it that's ringing that bell for you? There's a lot of intense energy going on right now. Today is going to be a very intense day in Washington, D.C. There is a national security thing coming up at 11 o'clock Eastern. That's 10 o'clock our time. I plan to be watching that and seeing what's happening with that. There's a lot of speculation. I'm not going to speculate, but I am feeling that there is going to be some change. There's going to be some change that we were kind of sort of aware of, but not totally connected in with. And then in New York City. So if you're a prayer, if you're a prayer warrior, or you believe in sending positive vibrations, positive energy, etc., please send it to New York City. Please send it to New York City. They are under great spiritual attack. I feel like those guys on Supernatural, Sid Roth, or whatever his name is, 700 Club, send good prayers, Send prayers to New York City. They are really under spiritual attack right now. Seriously, I think the gargoyles have come to life. The bad gargoyles, not the good gargoyles. And she's over here going, really? And I'm like, yeah, really? Really?
But really, yeah.
There's a lot of unrest that's through there. I guess what Mayor de Blasio is shutting down particular areas of the city, and some of those particular areas are heavy Jewish population, and so now he wants to shut down the synagogues. Okay. And so I'm like, okay, so it's synagogues today, and it's going to be the churches tomorrow, and then it's going to be the Buddhist temples and the Hindu temples and the mosques. Well, I don't know, but it's going to,
Well,
pretty
we've
soon.
already seen the churches shut down.
Exactly.
And
actually, somebody posted yesterday, and they said that at their church, and it's a Catholic church. She said, we go to mass and nobody wears a mask. We will not wear a mask in our parish. And I had somebody did text me yesterday, and they wanted to schedule an appointment, and they said, asked if they could wear a mask, and I said, you're more than welcome to wear a mask. I don't wear a mask. And they didn't schedule with me. And I'm just, I'm gonna say this about the mask. My personal reason, I've been shamed for not wearing a mask. I've been yelled at for not wearing a mask. I've been called in to the health department for not wearing a mask. And for all of the haters and the people that complained and the people that called, various organizations or whatever about my lack of a mask, nobody has bothered to ever ask me why I don't wear a mask. Not one person has asked me why I choose not to wear a mask. But they want to shame me. They want to yell at me. They want to report me. But not one person has bothered to ask why not. So if you care to know, just ask me. I'll tell you why I don't wear a mask. Because it's for health reasons, body, mind, and spirit, that I don't wear a mask.
There you go.
Yeah.
Same.
You know,
I mean, I've been yelled at. Mine fell off. I was in a little store, a dispensary actually, and my ears aren't shaped right for those ear loops and those masks. And so anyway, I leaned over to look in the glass cabinet, and when I did, the loop fell off my ear, and they had a security guard in there. You need to put your mask on. You need to put your mask on. My hands were full. I had no hands to be able to put the mask on. And I looked at her and I said, yes, I know.
yes, there's one to pick up though. Hold on.
Our water guy came. So we went weeks and no water guy showed up, and now all of a sudden he likes to show up during my life. Isn't that fun? But we have water! Yay!
And he's cute too.
He is cute, and he's sweet. We're okay.
Hi, I'm back. Did you miss me?
Terribly.
I missed myself for a moment.
Do you talk to yourself?
Yes, I do. I just don't answer myself all the
That would be
time.
bad.
And, you know, and my talk is always pretty much, I think the worst thing I've said to myself was ding dong dilly wog. Don't be a ding dong dilly wog and do that. But 99% of the time, my self-talk or my talking to myself is very positive.
That's good.
I'm like, girl, you look good. You need to put some more hairspray in there. They need to be like really big and fluffy. You know, that kind of stuff is my self-talk. Or I'll ask, what in the world am I looking for? What do I see? What's your self-talk?
I have issues with self-talk. I struggle there.
That's negative self-talk?
I do. I struggle a lot with it. So I have to be very intentional with taking time to create positive self-talk.
Okay.
So
All right.
reprogramming.
All right,
I
so,
have to do that a lot.
and I'm going to say it, say it, I must have difficulties.
She's not going to say anything.
Takati,
Takati.
Modelo.
The election infection. Well.
Get a mirror. Get a mirror.
Mm-hmm.
Get a mirror. And put that mirror in front of you, or stand in front of that mirror. And the same stuff that you're saying in your head,
Say it out loud.
say it out loud to that chick in the mirror, that dude in the mirror. And you will stop that shit pretty quick. Alright. And the same thing goes with social media.
Mm-hmm.
Okay? We can go on Twitter or Facebook, whatever, Instagram, and we can talk some crap. We can talk some crap pretty quick. We can tell somebody they're stupid. We can tell them that they're ignorant. We can say, I hate you. I hope you die. Blah, 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 blah. But face to face, that's why I'm saying look in the mirror, and, you know, because you're going to find yourself that you cannot look in the mirror and go, Alyeen, you're a piece of garbage. Or, Mares, I hate you.
Yeah.
It's really difficult
To voice it.
to voice it looking at that other set of eyes looking back at you.
Yeah.
So every time you want to break that habit of negative self-talk, get a mirror. And every time you got to say some shish, you look in that mirror, and then you end up going, oh God, I can't do that. And then the second step to that is every time you look in that mirror, so you go to the bathroom and you go pee and you get up and you're washing your hands and you're looking at yourself in the mirror, you look at that mirror and you go, I love you. I love you. I love you.
I love you.
I love you. That's what you do. You look in that mirror and you say, I love you. And if you can't say I love you, you mouth olive juice. Because olive juice looks just like, looks the same.
Ooh.
So you can go olive juice. Olive juice. And then your negative self-talk goes away. That's what I had to do.
Is it?
Yeah, Louise Hay. I was raised on Louise Hay.
I love Louise Hay. I don't see them
The
here.
Louise Hay cards. Where
I
are
just
they?
got some cards. I don't know.
Here they are.
Oh, are they? Just right there next to you?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that was not planned.
That was not planned.
That was not planned.
They're
But
called Power Thought cards. And they're affirmations. My life works beautifully. Everything in my life works now and forevermore.
I like that. My life is a mirror, card number 2.
My life is a mirror. The people in my life are really mirrors of me. This affords me the opportunity to grow and change.
That's some heavy shit.
I kind of like this one too. Release all fears and doubts, because I'm a warrior. I accept myself and create peace in my mind and heart. I now choose to free myself from all destructive fears and doubts. I am loved and I am safe.
Rock it on. So there's
Cool.
different ways. Write yourself a love note. Start sticking it up there on the mirror, on the door. When you walk out, when you're on your way to leave the house, and you're standing there at the door, and you have your hand on the doorknob, and you're looking ahead, and you see this love note. This is Alyeen, you're awesome.
Mm-hmm.
You know, Mares, you're magnificent. You know, Heather, you're hilarious. You know, or whatever it is that we need to remind ourselves so that we have that positive self-talk.
So I like to look in the mirror at my eyes and just say, your eyes are gorgeous. Because I love my eyes.
Positive self-talk. All right, so now then you're driving down the road when you don't have a client in your car, and you go, my eyes are gorgeous. My eyes are gorgeous. I'm seeing you with my gorgeous eyes. Whatever. It's like we have to raise our own vibration.
So I might actually do that with a passenger in the car if it's a quiet passenger, because sometimes I forget that I have a passenger in the back seat and a good song will come on the radio and I'm all like,
Come on, Alyeen.
Exactly.
The one-hit wonders. Oh my God, that song was about me. They just spelled it wrong. It's not Alyeen, it was Alyeen. Come on, Alyeen.
It's my song. That's a horrible song too, by the way.
I know, but I was just like, it was a catchy phrase.
When I was a kid, I thought it was great, And then as an adult, it came on the radio one time I was listening to it, I was like, turn it off. I don't want my kids hearing that.
Because they're all singing, come on, Alyeen.
Woo!
I don't know if I want my kids knowing all that shish about me. Mother did not do that, My kids, now both my sons used to tell people my mom was a groupie. And I'm like, dude, I was not. My mom was a groupie. She followed this band. I went over Oklahoma City, whatever, dude. That does not constitute me being a groupie. And he was like, yeah, my mom. Don't tell that fallacy anymore. So I haven't heard that one in a couple of years.
So I was a groupie for a few years, only because my daughter sang.
Okay. That doesn't mean you were a groupie. You were a stage mom. Let's be real.
I was a stage mom.
She was a stage mom.
That was fun, actually, though.
She was doing that stuff to all the kids. No.
Right. Well, most of the time, seriously, I just sat out in the audience. I wasn't, of course she was older when she started on stage. She was like 14, so, I don't need you to work on my makeup, thanks.
Well,
She loved it when I made her outfits for stage, though.
Oh, yeah.
That was fun.
I was like, I was reading I read an article. All right, there's some chick, her name is Marie something or other, Hefner, something or other. And she states that she's a child of Hugh Hefner. And anyway, so she did a little article thing about Brooke Shields.
Oh, wow.
And I knew that Brooke Shields was 12 years old-ish when she made the movie Pretty Baby. And that was a pretty risque movie back in those days.
Yeah.
I guess I didn't put two and two together because I don't even know how old I was back in those days. And realized she did a paid Playboy shoot.
At a very young age, yeah.
At 12.
Yeah.
12, 13, she did a Playboy shoot. So I just want to say she had a really crappy stage mom.
Mm-hmm.
Alright, that's my last comment about that.
Yeah.
So I'm glad you didn't do that to your daughter.
No.
Because that would have been really uncomfortable sitting here next to you going.
No,
She
it was
put her
actually,
daughter-
I managed my daughter when she was singing
Mhm.
and going around. So I was very particular about what producers she worked with and all that business. And I mean, it makes it sound like she made it big. She did not make it big. I'm just, but when you're in the music industry, you're in the music industry. And so, we traveled around. She had about 3 different men producers that she worked with that put her on stage regularly. And I was very, very adamant about what she wore when she was on stage.
Well, I think you have to be.
Very.
You
She's
have
like,
to
"But,
be.
Mama, why can't I wear the one that's like, nope, no ma'am, you are not.
You were not Britney Spears.
That's right. I gave on the peekaboo shoulders when they got popular. We found a really cute top, and I gave in on the peekaboo shoulders for her on stage. And so we blinged the shirt up so that it was really pretty. But
I would have been a crappy stage mom. I would have been walking around with a 6-inch blade. Let them all know I'm packing heat, mess with my daughter, and whether it's your throat or your scrotum, I don't know.
Whichever one I get you first.
Yeah, exactly. I would have been a horrible, horrible, horrible stage mother because I would have been like over my kid. Don't exploit them.
We were pretty blessed though that it was a very good group of people that we worked with.
Oh yeah, I can
So
imagine.
we had some really, really good experiences. I actually really miss it, Daphne. If you're watching this, you need to get back on stage, sister. I actually miss it. I loved it. It was like a family. It was fun.
I've heard that a lot, especially about when you're talking about like the gospel or the Christian, the folk music, etc. I think that depending on the different genres, you're going to have a different experience with it.
Yeah, I think so. She did back then. She did a lot of old country and some Broadway and some Christian, and so it was a different. It was a cool experience.
Because you look at it. What is it? Maybe 1 in 100,000 really make it in Hollywood or make it in the industry, and so it's really, really, really stiff competition, really hard competition to be able to get your foot in and then to be what they would call successful.
Right.
And to me, recording an album would be successful. Making a TV show would be successful. Having, a major producer or a major company or sponsor come out and go, hey, we want to sponsor the breakfast show. To me, that's success. But the very fact that you guys show up every week, that's my success.
Right.
So thank you.
Yeah,
I'm grateful for that.
I think a success for my daughter was when she finally got paid to be on stage. And that was like one of the last times she did a big performance was she got paid a couple $100 to come and sing.
It was like, woo!
And so that was like, it was almost like, well, that's what I was working for, was for somebody to pay me to do what I love to do. And then it just kind of all went away after that. She was like, I'm done. I did what I set out to do, so.
Well, you know, career-wise, I'm kind of the same way.
Yeah.
I give myself 5 years in a particular task or whatever, and in that 5 years, I will experience success,
Right.
promotion, advancement, moving forward. You know, it's like, so from work, I worked in retail, did 5 years of that. I did like intensive care, ER, trauma based. I did 5 years in that. I did 5 years in psych. I did, you know, so I do 5 years. I taught for 6 years actually. So you start looking at those things, and I was like, within 5 years, I'm going to gain, or these things will happen. Now, this is probably being a hippie healer, intuitive, whatever. You know, I've been doing that for 30-something years, so I was like, I guess I've never experienced success. I don't know. Who knows?
Either that, or maybe you settled in. All those experiences have led to.
Oh,
where you
yeah.
are. I mean, you know, you did each 5 years in each one of those. You learned the lessons that you needed to learn.
Oh,
to do what
definitely.
you do now. I mean,
I was like, to do what I do now, if I was never a nurse, I couldn't do 90% of the things that I do.
Yeah.
If I hadn't walked on the wild side, I would not learn to appreciate the light
Right.
and peace and harmony and balance and wellness. You know, it was like, if you haven't experienced the negative aspects and working up to create something positive out of that, then you really don't know what it's like.
I've had conversations with people about things like that. So so I did a 2-year midwifery apprenticeship.
Mm-hmm.
It was home birth based, which is just where I'm at. That's what I do. And we had about a 75% transport rate, which means we had a 25% success rate at having a successful home birth. Not good. Those are not good numbers at all. And I would think, oh wow, you know, some people would think, well, I'm out. No, this is too scary. I can't do this. But for me, and I don't know if other people feel this way or not, but for me, it was more of it was more energizing. It was more like, you know what, I really can do this.
Okay,
You know?
all right.
So because I experienced all the fears that I had, and I think when you have those fears, you're going to experience things in your life to help you get over those fears. Karma, whatever you want to call it. So for me, it was like all of these things that I was afraid of, I experienced in that 2-year apprenticeship. Now, I ended the apprenticeship after 2 years. I just was to the point where it's like I need to move on and be there for my family. But to see these hospital transports and to deal with nurses that weren't very friendly to the home birth idea and doctors that were bizarre, and then to experience doctors who were also like, no, come here, you need to, you know, be a part of this, come help, come do this, you know. So I got a little bit of everything, but by the time when I look back on it, it's like I have no regrets there because I learned a lot of lessons. And it doesn't make me fearful of attending home births now. If anything, it gave me the courage and the strength to do the home births because I know they're possible.
Well,
I know worst case scenario now, so it's like, does it bother me?
Longer than we've been doing hospital births,
right?
Okay.
So, but I mean, if you can't take the lessons out of an experience and apply them, then what have you got?
Okay, all right, well, let's look at sepsis. Sepsis is the result of an infection gone bad.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, sepsis. When I first started when I first started nursing in healthcare, sepsis had about a 25% survival rate.
Mm-hmm. Wow.
25% survival rate. And that's with modern medicine, right? And now, jump ahead 20 something years, and we probably have about a 60 to a 70% survival rate. And that is because of all of the people going in and working through sepsis and seeing what does and doesn't work depending on that culture. And when I say culture, it's like depending on what's going on, how is medicine practiced, blah, 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 blah.
Right.
You look at home births and what was the rate of complication 200 years ago?
Probably not very much, really.
The rate of complication?
Yeah.
I mean,
I don't know. I'd have to look it up.
how many women died in childbirth? How many women had issues in childbirth or after childbirth 200 years ago plus, prior compared to what's happening now in a home birth?
No, see, I'm not sure. I have to look it up.
So I was like,
I know I've heard
as
those
technology
before,
grows,
but
I think that we learn new things.
Yeah.
And we learn how to, and then also if we were having very successful births, like the red tent concept, my knee's itching. If we were having successful births 3,000 years ago in a red tent, that you had a handful of women in a red tent with you, and it was almost a ceremony to give birth or etc. And through there, what's the difference?
Right.
Yeah.
Well, and that's kind of my thing. It's a natural process, and so we just, work through it.
I will admit, I was like, I did my labor as natural as possible, but when it came time to deliver, I'm like, take me down to the sterile delivery room. That was me. I was not all about, breathing and, whatever, and sitting crisscross applesauce or whatever. I wasn't in that place in my life, and now I'm kind of like, I pretty much delivered my kids naturally. Would I do that? Would I do it at home? I'm like, oh, what a mess. I don't want to clean that up.
Well, you don't clean it up. Seriously. Do you know what a midwife does?
Okay, all right, and I'm going to say this. I've had plumbers in my house. I've had electricians in my house. And this was back before I was married. And I don't know if it's because I was a single woman, but every single one of those people that I allowed into my house to do work all left a mess for me to clean. So I could just imagine me having a baby, and then 3 days later, I'm getting up and walking through, and I'm singing "There's Some of My Placenta on the Floor." God bless it,
When I leave a birth, everything's clean. You have clean sheets on your bed. The washing machine is running. If it stops before I leave, then it's in the dryer when I leave. And all of the trash is taken out.
Not everybody does things like that. I'm just telling you. Not everybody does that. People don't have those considerations anymore.
Yeah.
It's, you get your car worked on, and then you go in and you see a greasy handprint on your console. It's like, really?
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah.
People, it's difficult for people to find the momentum, and I'm going to use the word momentum, to do the extra step.
Job's done, I'm out.
When I was teaching, I had a student, and the student was a waitress or server, whatever you want to call them, over at, I think it was like El Chico. That's how long ago that was, right? And I like El Chico too. I don't know where that came from.
I don't know where that came from either.
And I don't even know how we started talking about tips and appropriate tipping. And, and so I think my dad taught us this thing. He said, okay, so 10% if it was quasi, like, at least they brought your water, or whatever. Here's 10%, but gee whiz, you suck, or something, just at least give them 10%. And then if they're really great, you know, if they're good and, you know, and everything's taken care of, you give 15%. And he would look, and if you can't figure out 15%, take the total of your bill and divide it by 7. And that'll give you pretty close to 15%. So I'm like, okay. And then, and if they're phenomenal, you give them 20%, you know, or more. And I'm like, okay, you know, so that's how I learned how to tip. All right, so this student is looking at me, and she was like, no. And I'm like, why? And she said, it's 20% on the tip. And I went, 20% on the tip? So if I have a $100 tab, that means I've got to give her a $20 tip. And, you know, and a $100 tab is not hard to do between two people, you know, depending on where you go to eat. And so I said, so what do you do for 20%? And she looks at me like, what the heck are you asking? And I go, what do you do for a 20% tip? And she says, well, I bring you your drink, I bring you your plate, and then I clear your table. And I was like, so that's 15%. And we argued about this, and she looked at me and she goes, 20 is the new 15.
I don't think so.
And I said, y'all better be singing a song to me.
Right? Dancing or
entertaining. I better
right?
see a smile on their face.
You better have conversation with me.
You know, all these different things, you know, it was like, because it's not always, you know, a cut and dry. People are, we all want to have a better wage, but what are we doing for that better wage? Are we being the quasi staff member or the quasi server that does the bare minimum?
So I have to tell you that I learned, my daddy taught us to tip, that if you're going to give a low tip, a 10% tip, just let them know that you're unhappy, you leave a penny with that tip.
Oh, I didn't know that.
That's what I was always told. It's like, if you're unhappy with the service, you leave a penny. No matter, it doesn't matter how much other tip you give, but always leave a penny to show that you were unhappy.
Me, I would have been goofy. Oh my gosh, look, it's heads up. It's good luck.
They left me a lucky penny.
That's me, you know. I would have looked for the good in that, you know, that good in that penny. Hey, tails never fails, you know. On that. But yeah, I think I do remember something along that lines. But it was like, I think somebody was like not leaving the other part, and they were leaving. And that was not my dad. My dad was not like that.
I would never do that, because I know that, I mean, no matter how poor the service really was, they're there to try to survive. So they're supporting themselves. So I would never just leave a penny, because I think that would be mean. But
when I was younger, when I was in my teens and 20s, I had waitressed, you know, at some restaurant, and I believe we made like $2 something an hour. And so we jumped ahead some 30 years later, and I'm like, how much do servers make? And they're like $2 something an hour. And I'm like, really? Wow. So if they're not very good, or they're very new at what they're doing, they're not making a lot of money.
right.
And you folks are paying them $2 an hour, that's slave labor. You know, $2 an hour when minimum wage was $3.35 wasn't too bad. But we look at it now, and I'm like, man, seriously, I probably wouldn't be in waits. I wouldn't be in hospitality like that.
Yeah. And don't forget your other service industries, like your hairdressers and your barbers and your Uber drivers and
Ministers.
People that, I mean, these are all people that you know, give a tip to, because a lot of times they're working for not much money.
Or nothing at all.
Or nothing
you know.
at all. Yeah, they're solely on tips. I mean, you have a hairdresser that rents her own booth, then the only money she makes is what her clients pay her. You know, so, and it's a huge deal. So make sure that you're taking care of those people. So.
All right, and then to kind of start closing this off, and she's going to punch me in the arm when I say this. Make sure you register to vote.
Yes, ma'am.
Register to vote.
Why would I punch you in the arm?
Because she's like, not another thing about politics.
It's okay. Register to vote.
Register to vote. I don't care what way you vote. That's your personal choice. But you have a constitutional obligation to yourself and to your family and to your friends and to your city, your county, your state, your nation. Register to vote and exercise your right to vote. Yep. Your vote, your voice does count. But if you're not using your voice by the form of a vote, then you are not holding yourself up in honor and respect. So vote. Register to vote. I don't know when the last day in Oklahoma is.
The 15th of October, something like that.
I was going, the 5th of what?
The 15th of 16th.
Please don't tell me the 5th of November we're all screwed. You know? No, actually,
yeah, because I am sure that I had changed my address on the voter registration, so we looked it up to check just to make sure. It's not changed. It wasn't changed, so I had to. Just sent my stuff in.
Yep.
So
make sure you register to vote. Your voice counts. My voice counts. And then when we're all using our voice, then that's when we really start to see government reflect who we are and what our values and our beliefs are. And so vote, 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 vote. Vote!
And if you don't vote, vote.
I still love you anyway. But vote!
Go vote! We still didn't sing our song. You know, the last
it was the breakfast show. It was the breakfast show. I don't know why. Sometimes I cry. 'Cause I didn't sing the breakfast show.
I need to talk to my son-in-law again. He's supposed to be putting music together for us. He says he's working on it.
Yeah.
And he's doing, he asked me, he goes, how many different versions do you want?
15.
And I said, what do you mean, how many versions do I, how many different versions? He goes, y'all sing it different every time on the videos. And he goes, so how many versions do you want me to record for you?
Is he trying to make me feel bad and guilty?
No, he was like, no, he's very, very sweet.
Okay.
He is a doll.
Okay.
Anyway, he and I said, well, he goes, do you want a rock version? You want a bluegrass version? You want a...
Dang, 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 dang. Come to the breakfast show right now.
He's supposed to be doing several different versions.
I think a bluegrass one would be really cool.
They went on vacation for a couple of weeks, so they just got back into town. So, but he had told me before he left, he says, I'm working on it,
Breakfast show.
And he's very serious because he has his own YouTube channel. And him and his twin brother have written music for their YouTube channel. And he actually told me to go look at his YouTube channel and figure out if I needed him to do anything else for us.
I want a punk rock version.
That would be fun, I'll tell him.
Yeah, I think that would be really cool.
He'll do it for us.
I'm listening, I've got Rage in the Cage playing in my head. You know.
So I'll tell him.
Yeah.
So, but Wild Blue TV, I think is what he is on YouTube. So you need to go look him up because they're pretty funny. It's him and his twin brother, and they go on camping trips. They have bro trips every once in a while. They go look for Bigfoot.
I think bro trips are just as important as girl trips.
I agree.
So.
Somebody want to take my husband out on a bro trip? For 30 years, I've been telling him he needs a best friend.
You are his best friend.
You're my best friend. I'm like, no, a guy friend.
Okay, and then when they get the guy friend, then we're complaining because they're always with the guy friend. Speaking of dudes, I got Juan calling me.
Hey, Juan. How are you?
If you knew what your mother was doing right now, you wouldn't be calling. He's not on. Well, he is on Facebook, but he's not on Facebook. His wife does the Facebook. So,
okay.
Monica, tell your husband, my son, I'm in the breakfast show. Shush.
She was like, when the kids were little and you get on the phone, would you be quiet? now we get to say, stop calling us. We're on the breakfast show.
I know.
Hello?
If you knew your mother better, you'd know that she
But Mom, I need
is
something.
in the breakfast show until after
And
9
you're
o'clock.
supposed to drop everything and take care of me. No, I'm not. You're not out now.
He's my baby though. He's my baby Wan
My
Wan.
baby babies.
He's my baby Wan Wan. Mommy will call you right back. Peace, love, and harmony.
Oh, yeah, peace,
Hope to see you
love,
very
and
soon.
harmony. Bye, guys.